Today we're talking about giving offerings, and we're looking at 2 Corinthians chapter 9 and verse number 7. Again, that's 2 Corinthians chapter 9, verse number 7. And it says, every man, every woman, every person, according as he has purposed in his or her heart, so let him or her give, not grudgingly or out of necessity, for God loves a cheerful giver. And our affirmation today is, it's in my heart to give. It is in my heart to give. And we're talking about offering offerings. And we're talking about giving from our heart today. And I'm going to give you my points straight up. Y'all seem to like it when I just throw those points out there right from the beginning. Pulley point number 1 is offering. Pulley point number 2 is tithe. And pulley point number 3 is tithe and offering. Did y'all get those points? Pulley point number 1 is offering. Pulley point number 2 is tithe. Pulley point number 2 is tithe and offering. Tithes and offering. I'll give them one more time. Pulley point number 1 is offering. Pulley point number 2 is tithe. And pulley point number 3 is tithe and offering. Well, offerings, after we talked about in Genesis how the principle of tithing was there from the beginning, that there was a certain thing a tree that you did not touch, that it was reserved for God. But you also see that there were offerings with Cain and Abel back, and again, this is all in Genesis. We find the foundation of principles in the book of Genesis, which is the book of beginning, that Abel offered an offering, and that Cain offered an offering. Abel offered an animal offering to God because he worked with the animals. He was a hunter. And Cain offered a vegetable, grain offering from the ground because he was a farmer. So from where they worked, they gave their offering. So pulley point number 1 is offering. And so I think the first way that we learn to give, most of us, is that we learn to give offering. All right. Pulley point number 1 is offering. Offering is not, the amount is not specific. It's no specific amount. It's not given at any specific time. You can give an offering at any time. It's no specific time. It's no specific amount. And there's no specific person. You can give an offering, a love offering to anybody. That you can give a love offering when God touches your heart to give an offering. So pulley point number 1 is offering. And so offering is not a specified amount, not a specified time, not a specified place, not a specified person. It's just whatever is on your heart, you give your offering. All right? An offering, it can be an offering of praise. It can be an offering of thanksgiving. They had so many different types of offerings. If you look in the Bible, they got grain offering. They got the fruit. They got the fruit offering. They got the offering of the animals. They got the offering of their spices. They have all these different types of offering. The heave offering. They have the, it's just offering upon turtle doves, just offering upon offerings upon offerings. If you want to do some deeper study and research, just kind of go into BibleGateway.com and put offerings in and see all the different types of offerings that are in the Bible. And so I really believe the first way that people learn to give is they learn to give their offering. You know, the plate comes around, people give an offering. It's no specific amount. You know, people just give an offering. Give me a thumbs up, give me a high five, give me a heart. And people even say it's offering time. It's a part of the worship experience. So people say this is time for offering. And so people give a speaker's offering. They give mission offerings. They give offering for foreign missions. They give offerings for the homeless. Offerings, no amount, no specific person, no specific time, no specific place. It is often even called a free will offering. It is at will. It is based upon your heart and what you purpose in your heart to give. It is an offering. All right. Pulley point number 1 is offering. Give me a thumbs up. Give me a high five if you understand an offering. No specific time, no specific place, no specific person, no specific amount. It's just an offering. I'm going to get to that, Miss Dot. All right. All right. Seed offering, covenant offering. It is just an offering. All right. You can do or not do. It's an offering. It can be to any place, any time, anywhere, any amount, because it is an offering. All right. Pulley point number 2. I believe the second way that we learn to give or that I learned to give. I'm going to use myself as an example. I first learned to give my offering. All right, when I grew up in church, the first thing I learned was offering, and I gave an amount. I just gave an offering. All right, pulley point number 2 is I grew in my consciousness, in my prosperity consciousness, in my awareness of giving. I learned to tithe. Where tithe is different than offering, tithe is a specific percentage, it's 10%, and you tithe where you're being fed. All right. The tithe went to a specific place. It went to where you were being fed. It went to the priest, to the high priest. It went to the care of the temple because that's where it was being fed. It says, bring all the tithe into my house so there can be meat in my house. So wherever you're being spiritually fed, that's where you are to tithe so you can continuously be spiritually fed and so that other people can be spiritually fed. That I'm sowing into where I'm being spiritually fed. And because most of us are normally spiritually fed through a church or local assembly or ministry, our tithe goes to that ministry or that local assembly because we are a member of there, and that's where we get our spiritual feeding. Some people may not be a member of a church, so they might tithe to a person because that's where they're getting their spiritual feeding. All right, so the tithe is a specific amount, is 10%, and we talked about growing into that 10% if you're not there. It is a specific amount. It is given at a specific time. It is given as the first fruits. When you tithe, you're giving God first. You're putting God first. You don't tithe after you pay all your bills. You tithe first. Tithing is off the top. And we talked about yesterday about tipping versus tithing. And even if you look at tipping, that it's based on a percentage. A low tip would be 15%. Then they say 18%. Then they got 20%. I even went to a restaurant and they had a tip for 22%. That based upon the service that you have received, they give a tip. And I was amazed at how we can give 15% of a tip, but not give God 10%. We can give 20% on a tip, but not give God 10%. We can give 22%, 15, 18%. 10% on a tip would be considered poor service. But now when we think about God, it's like, ooh, 10% is a lot. But if you have a bill and you give a waiter or a server 15, 18, 20, 22%, then it's consider about your tithe, the 10%. All right, give me a thumbs up, give me a high five, give me a heart. I meant to get to that yesterday with the tithing and the tipping, but it went over my mind, so I threw that in today, all right? So the tithe is a specific amount, is given at a specific time. Whenever I receive something, I tithe. I give it as a first fruit, specific time, specific amount, specific place. Different than an offering, it is a tithe. Give me a thumbs up, give me a high five, give me a heart. Like when I go to Bible study, I give an offering. So I might give $5, I might give $10, I might give $20. No specific amount. I'm blessed by something that somebody said. I'll sow a seed and just send them an offering. That's not my tithe. It is an offering. It's free will. It's in my heart. No specific person, no specific amount, no specific time, no specific place. But a tithe is based on relationship, covenant relationship. It's based upon your relationship. It's out of that divine connection, and that covenant relationship is where the tithe comes from. That there's a sense of commitment, and there's a sense of a covenant relationship. There's a divine connection. My spiritual feeding is coming. Like I can get, desserts and snacks anywhere. But when it comes to my spiritual feeding, where am I being fed? That normally comes from a specific person, from a specific place at a specific time. So I tithe where I'm getting my spiritual feeding on a consistent basis. This is like thinking about your house, and you eat your meals in your house. And so you go grocery shopping and you buy meals for your house. Different than, I'm just hungry. Let me grab some peanuts here. Let me grab some fruit here. You can snack anywhere, but where are you being fed? You can, have dessert anywhere, but where is your primary meal coming from? That's where you tithe. Give me a thumbs up, give me a high five, give me a heart. Did you see the difference between an offering and a tithe? Come on, give me a thumbs up, give me a high five, give me a heart. Because many times we think people understand the difference between an offering and a tithe, and people don't. They just say, tithe and offering. I went to one church, And if you were a member, whatever you gave was considered a tithe. And if you weren't a member, whatever you gave was considered an offering. I'm like, where did that come from? But anyway, there's a difference between tithe and offering. And some people, when they first start tithing, you tithe off the net. Because that's what, you look at your budget and you say, okay, I can tithe off of the net. Because, but Sam has taken his amount off. You didn't pay for your insurance, your 401k, your 403b, and whatever's left after that, then people tithe off the net. And let me say this. If you tithe off the net, it's about you and relationship with God and where you are in your prosperity conscience. And I started offerings, and I moved from offering to tithing off of my net. Then I learned to tithe off of my gross, to give God the first fruit. That whatever the gross amount was, but this is growing in your relationship with God. This is not out of legalism and burden. I tithe off of the gross because that's where I am in my prosperity conscience. You can only be where you are. You cannot be where you're not. So if you're at offering, give offering and give offering from your heart. If you're tithing off the net, tithe off that net and give God praise for the net. If you're tithing off of the gross, give God praise because God loves the cheerful giver. What's most important is that you are giving consciously. What's most important is that you're giving from your heart. And as you grow in your prosperity consciousness, you will grow in your giving like I did. You got to start somewhere. So I started with offering, pulley point number 1. Then I moved to tithe. Within the tithe, I started with the net. And then I grew to the gross, pulley point number 2, because I started giving God the first fruit. And I grew to that. Give me a thumbs up. Give me a high five. Give me a heart. God is blessing you all along the way as you grow. As you grow, you sow as you grow. And as you are growing, your sowing grows with you as you grow. Give me a thumbs up. Give me a high five. Give me a heart if you're understanding the difference in this growth process. Because in the kingdom, it's not about judgment. It's not about condemnation. It's not about sin. It's not about being cursed. It's about growth. Can I say that again? It's about growth. It's about you growing in your prosperity conscience. Let me tell you, I have seen more growth in my wealth as I move from offering to tithing off the net to tithing. I have seen my finances grow. I have seen my prosperity consciousness grow as I have grown in my giving. I'm also growing in my consciousness. All right? Pulley point number 3. Now, some people, they go from offering to tithe, net, gross, we're done. We're done. But there is a place in consciousness, and I'm there, where I give my tithe, and that has nothing to do with my offering. That I give my tithe and I give offerings. That my tithe goes to where I'm being spiritually fed, and then I give offering it's tithes and offering, not tithe or offering. Did y'all catch that? It's tithe and offering, not tithe or offering. So there's a place in consciousness where you do your tithe, your first fruits, to where you're being spiritually fed, and then you offer wherever it's laid on your heart to give. And so I've moved to a place in conscience of tithe and offering. Give me a thumbs up, give me a high five, give me a heart if you can see that progression, if you can see that growth. If anybody else has a testimony about how you've seen the progression of your prosperity consciousness and you've seen the progression of the manifestation of wealth in your life. I have seen a direct correlation between moving from offering to tithing off the net, to tithing off the gross, to giving that gross tithe and giving an offering. All right? And so these are states of conscience. This is growth in your prosperity conscience, growth in your way. Let me tell you, you can't beat God's giving. No matter how you try, you can't outgive God. You cannot outgive God. Giving is a state of consciousness. It's not a burden. It's not a bill. You're not paying a bill. This is not a bill. This is about your heart. This is about your relationship. This is, your offerings don't have to be cash. It can be a check. It can be, we got so many different ways to give. We got Cash App. We got Venmo. We got Square. You give on the website. We got checks. We got cash. However, whatever medium that you choose to give your tithe and offering, it doesn't matter. It is completely up to you. It's completely open to you. And so I'm just showing growth in consciousness. And give yourself permission to grow. Have a plan to grow. I remember when my daughters were growing when they were first born, and we went to Zell, that's right, when we went to the pediatrician, she showed us a growth chart of how the twins, where they were now, and showed a growth chart. And that's how I see giving. Wherever you are now is exactly where you're supposed to be. But let's plot a growth chart of the height and the weight. That's how they did it, height and weight, and they showed a growth chart. And so as I am growing in consciousness, I'm growing in my giving. And as I grow in my giving, I grow in my manifestation of abundance in my life. And I'm telling you, I try to give every day to somebody or something. It is my intention to give every single solitary day. It's when I hear need, it's like, uh-oh, this is the opportunity to give, and I start getting excited. Woo! You need something? Bam! And it's an opportunity to give, and I get so excited. And let me tell you, often before I can even, that day goes out, just as I have given, I have received. It is a constant flow of giving and receiving. I'm not just telling y'all this because I need money. I am prosperous. I'm not telling you this because the church needs money. The church is prosperous. I'm telling you how you can be prosperous. All right? Did y'all get that? Pulley point number 1 was offering. Pulley point number 2 was tithe. And we talked about net and gross. And pulley point number 3 is tithe and offering. All right? So offer today. Freely, cheerily, liberally give from your heart with no strings attached. Get a growth chart. Get a growth plan. And see your consciousness and your wealth growing. All right? All right. I love you so much. God bless you. Thank you so much for being a part of the Daily Download.